The Carleton Center for Public History is a designated Carleton University research center which encourages, promotes, and facilitates the study of public history, cultural memory, and historical consciousness. The CCPH Alumni Interview Project invites current public history graduate students at Carleton to develop relationships with program alumni and showcases the talent, diversity, and achievements of Carleton's public history program. For more information, please visit ccph.carleton.ca.
I'm Sinead Cox, and I'm interviewing Angela Beeking for the Carleton Center for Public History. Angela is one of our alumni. So how did you become interested in public history, and why did you come to Carleton?
I started becoming interested in public history when I was very small. It was a favorite weekday activity to go to museums in my family. My mom and my grandmother loved to take me visiting all different small museums in our area, and my favorite was Upper Canada Village. When right from the time I visited there when I was about 4, so I became interested in museums and history. I had a real passion for that particular place. I went to all their summer camp programs, and then I ended up working there during my undergraduate degree, and I took history because I was so interested in history. I started in journalism because I was also interested in writing, but then I found history, and I really found I had a passion for it at Carleton. That's where I started. And when I did my summer work at Upper Canada Village, and then I was in classes with David Dean, and he gave us this introduction to public history, and I thought, I like this. And we did some really wonderful projects that kind of introduced us to the field. So then when I was looking for what to do when I was done my undergrad, I thought I'd like to do more of this thing called public history. So that's how I ended up at Carleton for the MA as well.
So David Dean stealing more people from journalism for the public history program. So what did you end up doing your thesis on in public history?
I actually looked at Upper Canada Village. I was working, I left Upper Canada Village in, I believe 2007 was my last summer there, and I was working still locally in the community and became aware of this controversy that was starting to form around the village. They did some changes to the staffing model. They were experiencing, like all museums, fewer and fewer revenues, less funding streams. So they did some staffing cuts. They started introducing new events and representations to try to increase revenue. And part of the staffing remodel involved laying off a lot of interpreters, and these new representations that they were bringing in were the medieval festival and things that people reacted pretty strongly to. So I was involved in that controversy as someone who had worked there. I was very engaged with the debates, and when I was looking for a topic to apply for funding for my MA, I thought, well, this would be really interesting. And then the more I thought about it, the more I thought this would be really an interesting MRE, so that's what I ended up writing about.
So how did Carleton help you with your project and the faculty and the program specifically? Do you have any favorite memories of your time at Carleton?
Oh, there's lots. In terms of my project, it was wonderful because David Dean was my supervisor. He was a fantastic supervisor and really helped me to think about the controversy in different ways. Because I was involved with it, it can be difficult to take that step backwards or just to see things that when you're involved you don't see. And for example, that theme of ownership became really important. Who owns Upper Canada Village? And I didn't see it because I thought, well, who owns Upper Canada Village? We do, obviously. Who else would? It's the public. It's us. But that was the heart of the debate. So helping me to see that. And then the other faculty at Carleton is really great too for, they're all engaged with knowing what you're studying and helping you to to think about your project, to think about how you're going to write your project. I had a lot of conversations with John Walsh as well about my project, and when I TA'd for him, he allowed me to lecture about it. So it was a great way to, you know, explain your topic in a different way. And I found that, like, everyone, even I took local history too with Bruce Elliott, which was great, a way of thinking about my topic. So the faculty, everyone is really engaged. And then, of course, there's the public history office and the community of students, which, you know, everyone knows what everyone else is writing about, and there's lots of conversations and really helpful conversations in the public history office. And that's one of my fondest memories, is that office. I miss it, but it was wonderful.
So now that you've graduated, well, when did you graduate?
2012.
So how has sort of the, you know, David Dean and Bruce Elliott and John Walsh and the Public History Office, how has that served you since, now that you've graduated and you're in the real world of the public?
It's been, I think, just learning different ways to think about the world around you really is helpful, and it makes life more interesting. It sounds kind of cliche, I guess, but it's, you know, if you're experiencing public history in the day-to-day, you do think about it differently after taking the program. It changes the way that you see the world. And then in terms of, you know, job applications, interviews, you are able to, you know, write really well. And in a lot of job interviews, there are a lot of exercises, I find, that test those abilities that you are learning. You know, putting together a sample proposal for a program, or putting together on the fly a press release. So those writing skills that you develop are really challenged, and it helps to have them well developed. And yeah, I think, and the internship was really helpful that way too. I worked with Jim Opp on the Rito Timescapes project, which gives you that experience to go with your degree that makes you competitive as a candidate, and just a whole different way of, you know, you've learned the theory, and now we're going to try to build an iPhone application, and can we do it, and, you know, what are the, like, how does the technology change the story, all of those kinds of things that you learn to think about as part of your internship too. So I think having both experiences is really helpful.
So what have you been up to since you graduated, public history-wise or otherwise?
I actually went back home and I got an internship with the BIA in Kempfel, so the Business Improvement Area, and they were looking for someone who had experience with organizing heritage events to try to help the downtown, which is struggling. It was struggling, and it continues to struggle with the economy. And that particular town has changed. Walmart is now in town, so they're looking to sort of, you know, be a heritage destination as much as a shopping destination. So that was really interesting to try to bring in that marketing element that was a little bit different than what we studied with public history, more trying to sell that the heritage of the town. But I got to develop some walking tours, which was really fun, and the Old Town Christmas event, so trying to play on that old time atmosphere that a downtown has. So it's really interesting to see the connection between, you know, the public history program, developing heritage programming, but also to do it to try to help a local economy, and the way that intersected and the way that they tried to sell it. It was interesting. So that was a 6-month internship, so I learned a lot in a very short amount of time, and now I'm searching again, so hopefully good things will happen. Yeah.
So what advice would you have for someone who's looking at public history, or maybe current public history students, going out into the workforce or completing their degree?
I think, well, take Carleton's public history program. Shout out, yay. In addition to the program, I mean, the program gives you all the academic tools that you'll need. And I've also found it helpful to have experience outside of school. That's really helpful when you go into job interviews to be able to say, you know, I learned this and I applied it here. So I found the Rito project very useful for that. Also, I did some work in a smaller museum. It was actually a very small museum. I worked at the Township of North Dundas in my undergraduate degree, and they don't have an archive or a collection, but they wanted to put together a museum in their old town hall building. So I got the chance to try out a little bit of everything. You know, you're kind of archiving, you're curating, you're developing programming. So, and this is something I talked with a woman at NCPH last week about, the joy of working in a smaller museum if you get the opportunity, because you do get that chance to try out a little bit of everything, see what you like, and also really build your experience. So that's something, anybody who's in the program, if they get an opportunity to try a smaller museum, it was really helpful. So.
Okay, so sort of a fun last question. Is there any portrayal of history that you've noticed lately that you especially like? Maybe public history Ryan Gosling or something of that ilk? Or
I love public history Ryan Gosling. It's just amazing, and I always look forward to it when I see a new one. It's like, oh, that was perfect. The way that history is portrayed on the internet is really fascinating, and the way that they kind of use Ryan Gosling in that way, it's really interesting. In terms of fun representations, I was in Florida recently, and I got a chance to go to the Titanic experience, which was a really, really fascinating combination of living history, first-person interpretation, artifacts, and this experiential, you're walking through the ship and then it sinks and it gets cold, and it was fascinating. And it's really neat to go to these places now that I'm done the program, because your mind just races with what everything means and you're analyzing everything that you see, and I think that made the exhibit even better. And that I enjoyed it very much for that reason.
So any last words about the Carleton program or public history in general for students out there?
Let me think. I want to be wise. What could you say? I think the program is fantastic. It's I have really fond memories of the people I met and also what I learned. And it is a struggle when you graduate, that kind of like, what's next and where do I go? And you secure, like I secured a 6-month internship, but now that's over, and it's kind of, you're out there again and you're a little bit lost. But I think that the degree will always serve you well, and the things that you learn will always serve you well, and I'm confident that good things will come. So I guess just stay positive and get lots of experience and just enjoy it. And volunteering, I found, has been really wonderful. When I left Upper Canada Village as an interpreter and moved on, I missed interpreting to the public, and you kind of, you get to meet so many people, and when that, you're not experiencing that every day. So I volunteered at a small museum in Merrickville, and I was able to interpret again. So if there's something that you really like and you want to go for it, volunteering is a great thing to do, and it's more experience. So yeah, but wonderful program.
Well, thank you so much, and I wish you all the best with your job hunt right now. As you say, the program can only serve you well, so good luck, and thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. Thanks so much.
You're very welcome.